The sand had exhausted her legs so much that every further step was torture, and she sometimes stumbled, but fortunately did not fall. I have to persevere. Only a little bit more, and you can't see any chroma glow in front of you. In fact, the colorful glow became weaker, and it became dark again. Black in all different tones and intensities that only Cheyenne, the only one among her companions, could perceive. The girl's heart raced as she came to a stop. Her breathing was faster than ever. Her legs hurt like hell, and she had tons of sand in her old shoes, but she had made it. Adocaz had already been out of the danger zone and lay exhausted on the fine ground. Glaczio did the same a short time after, and rested his hands on his knees. He didn't seem to be doing much better than Cheyenne. She fell to her knees and then sat in the sand. However, his and the chosen one's recovery did not take much time. Soon they were somewhat recovered from the ordeal and looked at Adocaz, who stuck out his long pink tongue and lay on his side, completely exhausted. Glaczio smiled. Well, you hellhound, now you don't growl at me anymore, do you? Hey, I would even dare to pet you now. In your condition, even a fly would probably be more dangerous. Angel, is everything okay? That was pretty intense. I, by my standards, am actually used to taking part in such daring actions, and I usually don't lack stamina. After all, that would be quite disadvantageous when fighting. But this sand is so fine that you are forced to slip away all the time while running. Considering the facts, I have to admit that I am very impressed with you, sweetie. You run almost as fast as the fairy wolf here. Truly amazing. I'd really like to experience your speed on normal ground. Well, even though we weren't allowed to use our usual pace, we still managed to do it without attracting attention. Now Sasha Mouse just can't waste it. I don't like the swell at all. We will have to be extremely careful. Cheyenne saw how Sasha now stood up in front of the knights, turned around, hit each of them with her tail, knocked them over, and finally disappeared into the sea. Hopefully she's not injured, but she showed the guards quite a bit. Serves them right. After a while the water moved near the place where Adocaz lay. Then it splashed, and Sasha crawled out of the sea on all fours. The girl could not see any injuries or blood on her friend and stood up to help her. Glaczio also stepped closer to his childhood friend and held out his hand to her, but the shapeshifter did not take it. The healer grinned and shook his head in amusement, while Cheyenne helped Sasha up. The first thing she did was to give vent to her anger at the knights. Thank you, Cheyenne. The tin cans with their pea brains, which only exist in their imagination, are such complete idiots that they almost compete with the icicle here. I bet they don't even manage to calculate 1 plus 1, and how they stared at me with their googly eyes, as if they had never seen a sea serpent before, these cowardly losers. Although these hollow bulbs had helmets on, which are just a waste of metal anyway, because where there is no brain you can't protect it, I could see their huge eyes staring at me as if I were a world celebrity. And they fell down, one after the other, when I threatened them. Really ridiculous. I can't believe that Adocaz really gave them this important task. They really didn't understand anything. None of the metal idiots even turned around to look at you. They were so scared of me. These people call themselves knights, are supposedly so strong and brave, but reality has proven to us once again that they are just a ridiculous, cowardly, idiotic bunch of scaredy cats. If stupidity caused pain, they would all lie on the ground, bent over with suffering, forever and ever. But good for us, and as long as it stays that way, they can be as stupid as straw for my sake. I really don't care. You get a headache from the tin cans. No one can stand so much incompetence at once. How can you be so stupid? I don't understand. You could almost feel sorry for them, but that would be the last thing I would do. Give pity to the enemies. That's what I will get to. Never, never. They don't do that either. I much prefer malicious joy. We can consider ourselves really lucky that we have a brain in contrast to them. Oh, I can't even put it into words how much I detest these idiots. I would have liked to kill them all. It would have been really easy for me with this gigantic set of teeth, but it would have been a bit too strange. Sea snakes are very rare here and usually peaceful animals, unless you irritate them too much, which was not really the case here, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would have had a good reason to extinguish the life of the tin cans. Besides, if I had drawn too much attention to myself, some of them might be chasing me now and discovering you here. Well, the main thing is that you had enough time to get past them unnoticed. I have to say I'm quite surprised that the plan worked. Well, I hate to admit it, Glaczio, you idiot. That was an ingeniously thought out plan, and you really did a good job. I can't believe I said that now. Ah, oh, never mind. What's our next step? Just go on like this? Well, we don't have much more choice, but I can tell you one thing. There are a lot of demons lurking underwater as far as I've seen, and the waves are very strong. Wow, that was really an announcement. Who would have thought that she would come up with so many insults for the hated knights? Well, I understand her, and if she feels better now after this Sasha typical tantrum, it's okay. I'm sure that Glaczio and I would have put it differently, but actually she speaks from the soul with what she lets loose about the knights, only in her special way. So now it's on to the Sand Passage, to Halonia. Adocaz and I leave our home continent, and we probably won't be able to return any time soon. What will become of XAVER? Cheyenne lowered her eyes and sighed. She had an enormously guilty conscience, because now she would just let her best friend down, even though he was only dragged into this matter because of her. The girl hoped very much that he was well. Glaczio stood there with his eyes closed and grinning, and seemed to have been as amused by Sasha's words as his prodigy. The young woman, however, now waited impatiently for an answer. The healer drew his ice sword and lit up the ground at his feet in a radius of 1 meter. While Sasha also pulled out her pistol, he explained his further plan. "Hey, I'm proud of you, Sasha Mouse. I wasn't aware at all that you could think that far." You actually had exactly the right assumption. We will just go on and hope that no incidents occur. However, this probability is very low. Well, at least I can see the ground under my feet. Angel, what does it look like further ahead? Oh, by the way, you will now walk close to my side without protest and always let one hand rest on your bow. If demons show up, this way I can protect you better, and you can attack with your arrows. However, don't expect a miracle effect. Umbraura against Umbraura is not really effective, but the recoil of a hit will help Sasha and me fight. Oh yes, Adocaz could also participate. I know that fairy wolves can cast magic, bite hard and fight. From now on, we'll all let you guide us. I'm sure you'll take the responsibility for our lives seriously. Let's go, otherwise we won't get to the other side tonight. The girl nodded and signaled to her four-legged friend. He understood and raised his neck fur ready for battle, became even more cautious, let his ears be heard in all directions, and raised his feelers. At Glaczio's request, Cheyenne looked around. The passage was very narrow, uneven, and partly flooded by seawater. The width of the sandbank fluctuated between 4 and 5 meters. In some places the path even narrowed to about 2 meters, and an end was not yet in sight. It seemed to be a very long night on foot, until they reached Halonia. Just as she was about to leave, she saw hoofprints on the ground, but not ordinary ones. They were impressions of specially made horseshoes from the Luminastrel Research Laboratory, with some hearts carved into them and a name next to them. "These are Shiva's hoofprints, for sure! On the front left horseshoe, XAVER and I have carved the horse's name, and on the right one is his own name. That's exactly what we did with Falconheart's hoofs. That means Shiva is still alive and hopefully XAVER too. But what is he doing here? Didn't he actually want to wait for me in Saralay? Oh no, maybe they chased him all over Luminastrel too. And he saw no other option than to leave the continent and hope that I would do the same. So he probably felt the same way as I did." Cheyenne's thoughts were interrupted, because she thought she had heard a soft, nervous snort a little further away. She looked up and thought she could see a horse in the distance. It was white and had pink streaks that looked like antennae. The rider's hair was very light, probably blonde, and it was not very long. "XAVER and Shiva!" The girl thought she could see that her best friend was looking in her direction, but she wasn't quite sure, because he was very far away and she couldn't say for sure that she had actually seen his face. XAVER made Shiva run and stormed away before Cheyenne had even the slightest chance to run to him or to point to him. But he wouldn't have seen that anyway, because he couldn't see as much as she did at night, and she wasn't allowed to call for him, because the guards behind them would no doubt hear it. "XAVER is alive! Luckily. I'm sure I'm just imagining I've seen his face. How is he supposed to look at me when he's as good as blind at night? Maybe he heard something, a demon in the water or something. Didn't want to take any risks and then ran off with Shiva as quickly as possible. But he's alive, that's the main thing. And he's even on his way to Helonia, which means that with a lot of luck we'll meet there. But if I'm not mistaken, something has covered his eyes." However, he was just too far away to see exactly what it was. Hopefully everything is okay and nothing happens to him here. After all, his view is severely limited, and the sand passage is not really a playground. If Shiva misses, or a demon attacks, or a wave sweeps them away. Oh, I mustn't think like that. XAVER will surely come to the other side. Now at least nothing keeps me here in Lumina's trail, and I can concentrate on the path ahead of me. I'm not alone, and even XAVER escaped the nights. I very much hope that we will see each other again soon. Cheyenne stared spellbound in the direction where her best friend had disappeared. In the light blue glow of the ice sword, her red eyes looked a little purple, her black hair bluish, and the green strands in it turned into turquoise. Even her dress shimmered in shades of blue. The glow was a bit different from her actual colors, but the elemental weapons harmonized perfectly with the appearance of their owners. Sasha noticed her friend's gaze, and the healer had also become aware of his prodigy's behavior. The young woman spoke first. "Cheyenne, are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "If there really is one, you have to tell us, yes? After all, there are supposed to be some, and demons do sometimes take on strange shapes." Glaczio laughed softly and received a slight slap from Sasha. But it didn't seem to bother him. "Oh, baby, you can hide behind the fearless ghost slayer Glaczio. I will protect you from the dangers in your imagination. But if you don't mind, my little angel and I dedicate ourselves to the real things, because we want to leave the sand passage behind us as quickly as possible. However, I am happy to give you permission to stay here and pursue your illusions. Maybe you will become friends, you and the ghost. But please don't rush into anything, and be careful, because my ears once heard that these fantasy creatures were tricky and deceitful. Someone who actually believes in ghosts like you, mind you, is in danger of falling for their games." Sweetie, honestly, think about whether you might have a teeny tiny psychological problem. From a purely scientific point of view, it is impossible for such a thing as a ghost to exist. Nothing more than a legend from the yin-yang age, which is told to small children as a scary story. According to this, it is impossible that you have ever seen one, so you cannot know what they look like and would not notice if a demon embodied this figure. Please. How old are you? The healer visibly enjoyed teasing Sasha, but Sasha didn't want to let his comment sit on her. "Ah, you idiot! At least I'm not as conceited and arrogant as you are. And just for your information, in case you idiot have forgotten, I'm 19, a year younger than you. But on a mental basis, I'm way ahead of you. In contrast to you, I survived this childhood phase many years ago and am now at least reasonable, which really can't be said of you. Besides, I didn't mean it that way." Sasha turned red in the face and was once again excessively annoyed with the healer. He had closed his eyes, put on a broad grin, and let his childhood friend talk. Without responding to her words, however, he turned to Cheyenne and asked more seriously. "Hey, little angel, it just seemed to me as if I had heard something. An almost familiar woman's voice." But I guess that was just imagination. Don't you think so? But before that, I could hear the distant snorting of a horse. What did you see?